Welcome back to the Brokest Guy in the Room. This is Chris Kushner coming to you live with a special episode from Bali, Indonesia. Today, I want to talk about the topic of bullying. In my life, bullies have come in many forms. They've come as a real physical thing. They've come as a personal, mental thing. And I particularly want to talk to them or talk about it as it pertains to quitting and how that relates to breaking through, transformation. When I was a kid, I was short, overweight, and in my early youth, I was picked on a lot. Through the sport of wrestling, I was blessed, fortunate to physically transform myself. And that transformation through gaining skills to defend myself and the confidence to stand up for myself really helped me break through with my own personal demons, my own personal bullies. This trip to Bali has offered me physical, emotional, mental transformation that I can't possibly describe with enough words. It's been remarkable, really. In the past episode, I let you guys know that when I came here, I originally came here to work through some issues. I can't even say work through some issues, but I came here to party and to be distracted. Why this is interesting is because Bali had always been a place that I wanted to come to for spiritual transformation. And despite my best efforts, let's just say that transformation found me. In dealing with my Crohn's disease, which has come to be sort of my eternal bully. You heard me talk in the past episode, I personified him as Jake. Doing this has helped me sort of identify and recognize his presence in my life, and has also helped me devise strategies for how to best him. When I was younger, the bullies were real people, and they were scary, and they would cause me to avoid experiences and opportunities. This is unfortunately something that is plaguing the whole world. So many people battle bullies every day. And these bullies can be in the form of schoolmates. They can be in the form of parents. They can be in the form of a toxic spouse or romantic partner, whatever you want to call it. They can be in the form of a boss or a financial partner. Most importantly, they can be in the form of a reflection of ourselves. My experience with yoga has been much of that. When I started this program, I right at the beginning of it, I didn't think I could do it. Near the end of the program, something really magical happened. I had reached the point of total breakdown. I was ready to quit. Jake had snuck in and planted seeds of doubt in my head in the form of physical and emotional pain that I thought I couldn't withstand. Now, on this particular night, when I had reached the breaking point, I was fortunate enough to have a massage scheduled. Part of the program, they had granted us a free 30-minute massage. Now, as I'm walking into this massage, I encounter two of my classmates, both of whom were having just completed their massage. One of two, who I'd had, remarkable encounters with and similarities in our life, the issues that I came and was opening up about and had worked through were issues that he was struggling with himself. The other I chose to actually open up to, and I let her know. I let her know that, I was there. I was sort of ready to call it quits. I was struggling. I was hurting. I was lacking belief in myself. The bully was winning the battle. The bully was beating me up. Jake was beating me up. She looked at me and she said something. She said, "Oh, this is the time. This is the important time. This is when it really happens. You know, you can't quit. You can't let yourself quit." And what's remarkable is that my first reaction was anger. You know, I guess in reality, I don't want to be pushed anymore because I lack the capacity to push myself. Fast forward, had my massage. I then went to sleep that night and had a night that I'll not soon forget. I've been fortunate enough to experience lucid dreaming a couple times in my life, and so I'm aware of it, and I'm aware when the opportunity comes how to lean into it, how to open up to it. As I went to sleep, restless, feeling sort of complete and total exhaustion, I fell into a deep sleep that I woke through with violence. I woke up, flew out of bed, ready for class. My eyes popped open, and at this point, I had developed a routine that was working for me, but it started out with chugging essentially 2 liters of water to get myself hydrated, consuming a banana and some eggs to get some protein, some potassium, some nutrients, some sugar in my system to wake me up. And then I hit the shower. Well, the moment that the cold water hit my skin, it dawned on me that I couldn't recall my alarm going off. Problem. I paused, look at the clock. It's only 2:30 a.m. I'm supposed to wake up at 5:30 a.m. Now, all energized, I have the task of going back to sleep. And as I went to sleep, something really, really interesting happened. You know, I was sleeping but not sleeping. In fact, one of my eyes was open and aware of the surroundings of the room that I was in. And I know this because I could recall being bothered by physical things. I was hot. My bed wasn't comfortable that night. I was fidgety. But then out of my right eye, I noticed that I was in a foot race, an intense one. I was racing with people I don't recognize, and I believe it was here. I believe it was here in Seminyak, Bali. In any case, the point being is that at the moment that I had this realization, I knew that I was dreaming. And so in an effort to take control of the dream, to make it lucid, I thought, I want to fly. I think I can fly. I'm going to fly. And so as my left foot thunderously hit the ground, I used it to launch my body up, and sure enough, I took flight. And I felt this as real as the sound of my voice is right now. I felt the wind blowing through my hair, the freedom to glide, swoop, ascend, and dive. And it was exhilarating. Now, I set my sights on a particular spot, and I thought maybe I'll go land there. And I did. And as I'm sitting there, you know, engrossed in just how awe-inspiring this was, I realized that, you know, I'm not done yet. I want to fly again. The only problem was at this point, it wasn't so easy. At this point, I found myself unable to continue to fly. As I'm looking around, becoming filled with frustration, my alarm goes off. My left eye still open, looks up, and sure enough, now it's really 5:30. The difference between this 5:30 and that 2:30 is that now I'm exhausted again. Now I'm feeling much how I felt last night. But I remembered something. I remember the words of the woman I encountered. Her name was Agnieszka. And somehow this time it didn't make me angry. Somehow this time it caused me to say, you got this. You can do this. You're not going to not do this. So I started the routine over and I went on to class. That class happened to be a breakthrough session for me. I was able to execute postures and poses to a level of flexibility I didn't know my body could handle. I certainly didn't think were possible for me. At the end of the class, the class ends, the last position is a spine twisting position. And it's essentially where one leg is over the other in a seated position as you try to use your arm to push against your opposite knee in an effort to turn and twist your body in the opposite direction, twisting like a pearl necklace. Once completed, you hear hold it there, freeze, change. And then the term Savasana, which refers to dead man's pose. As I lie there on my back, an emotional wave hits me in the realization that I had just experienced a miracle, that I had just had a breakthrough. And I knew this. And the power of it just engrossed me. Our teacher, Mr. Ian, had asked us often, what is your greatest fear? And sort of the epiphany of this is that your greatest fear is not that you will fail, but rather that you will shine, that you will be great. And he was right, because greatness can be a scary thing. Later on, I'd find that the man that I encountered the night before, Hesham, had been feeling all the same things I was. He had reached the precipice, he had reached the breaking point, he was ready to quit. In his case, it was the battling of personal responsibilities that he felt he had put in second to this class and was ready to put it back in first and not come to class. Hesham and I shared this breakthrough. Later on in discussion, one of the classmates, Amanda Jane, who we'll have on, if not in the next episode, in a near future episode for sure, hopefully before I leave Bali. She alluded to a phrase that has helped her, and she said, "Don't quit before the miracle happens." Now, this resonated for me tremendously because I had just been at the point of quitting. I had just decided not to quit. And as a result, I did experience the miracle that she referenced. Wow. In other words, that bully inside my head, I just defeated. And as a benefit of it, I experienced the miracle of transformation. We all kind of get in our head and let either ourselves or someone else break us down, and sometimes pose an insurmountable barrier to the benefit that we had set out to gain. Today, I had a similar experience. A friend of mine back home, Glenn Mix, if you're listening, I love you, brother. Thank you for the recommendation. Glenn had come to Bali before. Glenn was kind of the first person I knew in the States that really was familiar with Bali, and he would tell me often that, the big regret he had was not climbing the summit of Mount Batur, which is one of two active volcanoes here in Bali. The smaller of the two, but still quite the feat. And so I had decided that with my last couple days, my last bit of time, I was going to embark on this trek. Now, one of the challenges of this is that, it essentially consumes a night and an evening, because pickup is at 1:30 a.m. 1:30 a.m., you get picked up from your hotel. You get a 2-hour drive north into the mountains, at which point you reach base camp. And from there, you've got a roughly 3-hour hike up the mountain, maybe a little longer. To be honest, I wasn't keeping track of time. Now, as you're going up this mountain, you can see in the distance there's large amounts of groups. There was probably a couple hundred people ascending on this, and everybody's carrying flashlights, and it's pitch black as you ascend through farms that are based on the mountain. There's about 80 people who live on this mountain, growing everything from onions, chilies, tomatoes, and you're walking. And before we even reach the halfway point, there's a gentleman who happened to be in my personal group, Leo. He looked up and he said, "Boy, it's a bit intimidating, isn't it? You see how far you've come. You're already hot and sweaty. haven't quite hit the rhythm yet. And you look up and you just see how far there is to go. In fact, at this point, couldn't see the top. I remember looking back at him and referencing something that I heard in Will Smith's book, Will, where he talks about his father asking them to build this brick wall. And it's seemingly never-ending task. And every time Will had a breakdown, his dad would say, I'm not asking you to build a wall. You're not building a wall. What you are doing is laying one brick and laying it perfectly. And when you complete that, you're doing it again. You're laying one brick and doing it perfectly. With this in my head, I look back at Leo and I said, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the summit. Don't worry about the destination. This is about the journey. All you have to focus on is putting one step in front of the other. What I'm sure he didn't know was that in reality, I was talking to myself because I was also feeling it. But in that moment, I'd be damned if I let anyone knew it. Why is that? Well, this is another powerful tool. I didn't want to cause a breakdown. Class the other day, I had a phrase come to mind to me that was a reminder of how I get through some of the points of weakness that I have. And the phrase was, if you can't be strong for yourself today, be strong for someone else. If you think about and consider the implications of your own personal breakdown, the metaphor I'll use is taking a knee. In sports, when you can't go anymore, you got to rest, you take a knee, in football in particular. And so I didn't want to take a knee because I didn't want me taking a knee to cause anybody else to take a knee. So in fact, I looked up, I sped up, and I kept it moving. Well, at the top of the summit, again, there was a miracle because every single one of us was up there. And as you gaze off the top of a volcano and you see clouds beneath you, literally above the clouds, and you see the sunrise start to come up, and suddenly this dark, lonely, scary experience becomes this bright, magical, beautiful realization that you did it. That you did it. You almost quit, but you didn't quit before the miracle happened. And that miracle, oh man, I get goosebumps right now talking about it, because I'll tell you what, I was ready to go back down, start over, and climb right back up that mountain again. I felt so jazzed. I felt power. And I guess that's the miracle, because in defeating your bully, you find the power. Truth about bullies is that they're really scared. They're scared of you fighting back. They're scared of themselves. And the moment you fight back, the miracle happens. The moment you take the knee, their miracle happens. They just pound on you harder. Maybe I couldn't call that a miracle. I don't know what to call it. But at the top of that mountain, for the second, third, maybe fourth time since I came to Bali, I again experienced a miracle. I've never felt so strong. I've never felt so powerful. I've never felt so capable. Once the sunrise is done, we turn and face the crater. And my guide did something awesome. He said, let's go now and feel the heat of the volcano. He takes me down into the crater just slightly to where I can see steam pockets rolling out of these little crevices there. And I feel the heat of this volcano, the raw power of Mother Earth, the sort of snore, I guess. And the exhilaration is so real. On the climb down, I'm just going through all these things in my head that I let stop me so many times. And I realize that when you let something stop you, you've willingly accepted the worst case scenario of your own failure. Again, not quitting before the miracle happens. Truth be told, this miracle waits for all of us to recognize that it's possible. How do you get there? Well, for me, it's about reminding myself that no matter how taxing and how defeating the task may be, it's about keeping that focus in that realization that you're not after the summit. You're after the journey. The experience wasn't in just standing at the top. The important part of the experience was in the pain that was endured. Because through the endurance of that pain and the perseverance through it, I found power. It's funny how as soon as you reach your objective, you can have almost feelings of regret because you just want to do it again. And if that really doesn't prove that it is all about the journey, then I don't know what does. Me as a person, I've joked with myself my whole life. I've said I was like Pepe Le Pew. You know, if you're not familiar, Pepe Le Pew was a Looney Tunes character. He was a skunk and he portrayed a French romantic, and he was constantly chasing this cat, this black cat that had accidentally gotten white paint painted on its back. And he was always the cat. The other cat was always the opposite of his affection. And then eventually it would turn on him, and he would do something that would make the cat love him, and the cat would start chasing him. And the moment that happened, he'd run like hell. So that's a lot like me, I guess, in the sense that I realized a long time ago that the thrill was all in the chase, because I always have to have something to chase. Why am I saying that? If you're struggling with motivation, if you're struggling with purpose, desire, I would offer that you probably haven't found something to chase. A lot of people have a real inherent fear that is so deep that they're not even aware of it. And what they're afraid of is the possibility that they might have greatness inside them. And the most common way we're going to avoid this is by simply not stating an intention, an objective, not setting a goal. People think it's rooted in failure. And I would agree with Mr. Ian at Yoga Effects that it's rooted in the fear of success. On the way back down the mountain, admittedly I'm covered in sweat. I'm looking shredded. You know, my veins are popping out. And I keep getting comments from people, mostly from the locals, saying, MMA, a UFC fighter, are you a fighter? You a fighter? You a fighter? And as I'm sitting there processing this, I can't get past the thought that it was very recently that I would have been extremely flattered by that, extremely flattered by that, and that I guess my goal in working out and getting strong was to look tough, look like I could potentially impose harm on someone else. And it's comical to me because now in this very moment that couldn't be further from the case. And in response to his comments, I looked at the guy and I said, no, I'm a teacher. I'm a yoga teacher. Why would I want to put a bruise on someone's face when I could put a smile there instead? And I think this caught him really off guard. And you know what I did? I put a big old smile on his face, and it made me feel amazing. That's the reality of why I'm doing this work now. Right now I'm sitting here recording this podcast. This isn't something I'm getting paid to do. I'm doing it simply because I've seen the times when I've been able to impact somebody with my message and what it's done for them. And that has done so much for me as a person, for my psyche, for my power, for my mentality, for my ability to love myself, which took me 30 some odd years to do. So why am I doing this? Because even without knowing you, I can tell you without a question that I love you and that I would do anything in my power to help you find love for yourself. My best friend George said something to me that I've referenced in a previous episode. At one point, I told him I loved him, and he told me I was lying to him because he said I didn't love myself. And if you don't love yourself, you lack the capacity to love somebody else. And as much as that probably stings, I promise you it's true. I promise you it's true.
This is another form of the bully. We get in ourselves, and this bully gets in our head and tells us we're not worth loving, that we can't have the things that we want, that we don't deserve them, that we won't get them. This is the most important bully for you to battle that you can possibly ever think of, because this bully is the barrier from everything. This is the bully that was kicking my ass for 30 some odd years and I didn't even know it. I was so punch drunk, I didn't even know that I was in a battle, let alone one with myself. One I had all but lost. I give credit again to my best friend, because he is absolutely most unquestionably the person who made me aware of this, gave me a fighting chance against my own bully. Fast forward to today. I came here to blow off steam. In reality, I launched myself all the way across the world, from Ithaca, New York to Bali, Indonesia, to come party and blow off steam. Again, I'm going to say thank you to my disease, to having Crohn's disease, because without it, I probably wouldn't have made the decisions that came next. And it really, in the spirit of all good things being born of discomfort, I chose to skip the water park day because, and if you know me, I love water parks. I love lazy rivers. I love water slides. Not so much a theme park guy, really love water parks. Anyway, beside the point. I skipped the water park day because I knew that if I didn't hit the gym that morning, my body would start to slow down, as it does. And once it starts slowing down, things don't work for me. Right? So my stomach will swell up, I'll lose my appetite, I'll have no energy, and worst of all, I'll have tons of these indescribable stomach cramps, stomach pains. I mean, I jokingly say that it's like I'm getting a period every month, because my stomach gets all jammed up and I pass blood in my stool. It's gross. It's a really crappy part of life, but still, nonetheless, through that discomfort, I couldn't be more grateful for this disease, because this disease is what causes me to make better choices. So I'm lucky for that one. Anywho, where was I going with this? So day 4, I decided to skip the water park day because I knew I had to go to the gym. Credit to my friend Glenn Nix back in Ithaca, New York. He told me about a gym here, Bali MMA. And so in my head, I already had a place that I wanted to go check out. And I get there, and it's a really cool place, first of all, let me say that. Really clean, big gym, filled with guys, fighting, grappling, whatever. And, I kind of look around and I get interested. I see a class has started. And, I started asking about information, kind of playing the role of the interested guy. The more I'm standing there, the more it's hitting me that, like, I'm not really interested in learning more ways to hurt people. And that was kind of a monumental moment for me. That in and of itself right there was kind of just like a pivot, like, whoa, that's new. It's always been about contact, football, wrestling, Suak Do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Everything was all about different ways that you could, impose harm on someone, whether defending yourself or not. That's the reality of what it was, right? So anyway, I get back on my scooter, and through a couple of little miscalculations, I end up at this place, Soham. And little did I know that there was something special going on at Soham. So anyway, I have a pretty killer workout. I'm feeling fantastic. This place had a really nice infinity pool with a little cafe outside that you could use, sauna, steam room, ice bath, and so I went outside to take a swim. And as I'm drying off, I hear a woman and a man talking, and two things, I guess 3 things being of interest to me. The woman says she's from New York. The guy says he's a former pro football player, and that he's from Poland. And I'm like, that's hell, I want to talk to these people. So I'm like, hey, I'm from New York. What are you guys doing here? And long and short of it is, they were there for a program put on by a guy named Mr. Ian Young. His company's Yoga Effects, and it's an international teacher certification program for people who want to be yoga teachers. So people from all over the world came to this thing to put their time in to gain their education on the Bikram yoga and yoga theory from a guy named Ritesh who came from India, second generation yoga teacher. I mean, these guys are just world class. Anyway, I allude that I always wanted to try yoga, and they at this Konrad Polchowski, my brother from Poland, man, he literally said 7:45 tomorrow, come, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll go. I'm all excited about this. And so anyway, I go off and I go back to my party thing. We go out that night. I think this was a night we went to this club, Shishi or something like that here, which was outrageous, just an outrageous night. And 3:45 a.m. I get back to the villa, and I'm like, I blew it. I'm so mad at myself. I had a chance to learn yoga in Bali from a master, and I blew it. And 7 o'clock rolls around, my eyes pop open with a fury, and it's almost like my body was trying to resist, and my mind was just pulling the strings like it was, you know, a puppet. And my legs start moving, and off I go. And next thing I know, I'm on my scooter. I'm on my way to Soham. I'm walking into this thing, and I'm trying to shake off the cobwebs, the hangover, not really knowing what I'm about to get into. What I walk into is a steam room filled with people. And from the moment I walk in the door, look at this guy, brother, come here. What's your name? What's your name? Suddenly I'm pulled to the center of attention. I'm uncomfortable. And you know, they ask why I'm here. And without getting too much into details, I explained why I was there. And as I mentioned, I was there to blow off steam. I was dealing with some things emotionally. And so I decided to open up to a room full of strangers, tell them why I'm there. Next thing I know, I'm bawling. I'm crying in front of all these people. Didn't see that one coming, right? So now I'm, you know, spilling out tears, go back to the room, and this class starts. And all I can say about it is it ended up being one of the most physically demanding things I've ever done, you know. And I haven't done a ton, but you know, I've done a Spartan race. I've been on wrestling. I've challenged myself physically. I work out every day. I practice every day. I put almost 2 hours in every day. I never take a break. In this class, you know, they tell you that you just want to stay in the room. That, like, if nothing else, just stay in the room. See if you can just stay in the room. And if you start to feel faint or anything like that, just turn around, lie on your back. And let's just say I got to that point, had to turn around, lie on my back. I blacked out twice. It was that intense. At the end of this class, there was just waves of emotional breakdown. You know, and I hear that I'm not the only one. I hear something special is going on. This ended up being a vehicle of change for me. So after the class, I was to remind you, I'm supposed to be on a flight the next day. I'm supposed to come home the next day. My wife is expecting me. My store manager is expecting me. My business partners are expecting me. Everybody's expecting me to come back and continue to be there, you know, to perform my functions. Ian comes up to me at the end of class, and he says, "Brother, you know you're staying, right?" I said, "What?" He says, you're changing your flight. You're going to go through this program, and you're going to be a yoga teacher. You're going to be a great yoga teacher. But he said, yes or no. This is another thing he does. He goes, yes or no, right now. And so I felt I had to make a decision. And believe it or not, the decision that came out was yes. Oh my God, imagine how people felt. Imagine how my poor wife, who loved me so much, supported me so much, imagine how she felt when I tell her, baby, I'm not coming home tomorrow. I'm going to be gone for a month, you know. And by the way, you got to manage all my stuff. You got to take care of all my stuff, and, you know, manage the apartments, the Airbnb, do whatever, you know. Yeah. Wowzer, right? In spite of that, she did the same thing I did. In the spirit of all good things being born of discomfort, she allowed me to do that. This was incredible because, in essence, we were all fighting a bully to grow. Kara's bullies, she didn't want to be alone, right? She loves me dearly, and she wants me to be there. And truth be told, I don't think she'd had many opportunities to shine on her own. My store manager didn't even blink an eye, you know. And I think he's in full growth mode right now. And I think he also knew that, you know, being able to prove to me and to himself that he could keep the businesses running while I was gone completely. I mean, that's pretty special, you know. I plan to never let him go. I hope like hell he never leaves because I love him to death. He's my brother. But it would show him that he doesn't need this opportunity to do it, right? It would prove to himself that he could do it. Point is, doesn't matter what, point is growth. And for me, um, well, I think I was still battling with my own ability to love myself. You know, I had encountered some different forms of rejection. We'll leave it at that. And it shook my. So that was my bully to battle. Through the yoga class, and in yoga in general, and a lot of the poses, it presents something really interesting because you can visibly see your goal. Like, for instance, if you're trying to do standing head to knee, you know, you're essentially looking down at your feet and grabbing behind your ankles and locking your legs, and you're using your bicep strength to pull your body closer down. You're pulling down, breathing, you know, using your stomach to exhale, to flatten your stomach so that you can compress your spine and fold yourself down like a sandwich. I had kind of a breakthrough moment in a day when I was really about to give up. You know, I had this experience with a friend of mine there, as I mentioned earlier, with Hesham. Um, and this was kind of the breakthrough moment for me because I had been ready to give up, and yet I allowed myself to get really fully lost in these commands, and I'm pulling myself down and pulling myself down and pulling myself down and not thinking about anything other than just that repetitive motion. Then all of a sudden I hear, "Hold it there, freeze," and I notice that my face is touching my shins. Now that's kind of how the postures end in this form of yoga. They say hold it there, freeze, and then change, and then you're on to the next one. The last one is a spine twisting pose, right? And spine twisting pose is, you know, you're sitting sort of cross-legged with one knee over the other, and then you're going to reach your opposite arm over and push against that knee and try and look as far behind you as you can. So you're twisting yourself in opposite directions intentionally to separate the vertebrae in the spine to like loosen that up and gain that flexibility. Now, this is a pose where your breath is everything in all of them, but in this particular one, I mean, for me anyway, every time I exhale, I can really feel myself twist like a pearl necklace and just start to, you know, twist around until you look in the back. This is a painful posture for a lot of people. Certainly not one that was easy to execute. For me, at the beginning, I couldn't do it at all. I couldn't figure out how to get past my hip bone. Of course, the answer is breath. You know, I had a full belly when I was supposed to be empty in my belly. You can't do that. It's not going to work. Learn the right technique, and all of a sudden, you know, boom, you can do it. Anyway, at the end of this pose, this is the last in this series, you hear hold it there, freeze, change, savasana. Savasana is for dead man's pose. Essentially, you know, you're lying on your back, feet heeled together, toes apart, palms facing the sky. And this is the moment in which usually the magic happens, right? Like this is something I've never gotten this from any other form of exercise. But in this moment, everybody in the room just beat their bully. And everybody in the room starts crying. This was kind of a magical thing that I didn't expect. But all I can say is I aspire to recreate it. Right now I'm recording this here in Bali, and I have every intention of opening a Bikram yoga school, or at least offering classes at other studios. That actually at present maybe sounds a little bit more appealing to me, but that's besides the point. And the reason I want to do this is, Hesham said this on graduation day. He said, I feel we have a responsibility to share what we've got. And that is exactly what I feel. Because holy cow, man, in that moment, you break through, you experience this miracle. You know, Amanda Jane in class said, never give up before the miracle happens. And I thought that was so impactful, because it is always at the moment that you feel the strongest urge to give up is right at the finish line. We don't always know the finish line is right there, but it's always right at that point. You see, Ian told us a story about him climbing one of the tallest mountains in the world. I'd hate to say one and have it be the wrong one because I truth be told can't remember, but the mountain is beside the point. What he tells us is there's, I think he called it summit fever or summit syndrome. And it's something that happens when you're up near the top at this high in altitude, and it occurs because the air there's so little CO2 in the air. And apparently your mechanism that wakes you up from sleep or wakes you up if you stop breathing is the lack of CO2. It's like an alarm, and it'll pop your brain up. Well, when there's not enough CO2 in the air, I guess this doesn't happen, or I may have it backwards. So the point of this is that you don't sleep. You're up there for 48 hours or something. He said he went 48 hours without sleeping, and he just came so close to breaking down and not reaching the top, and it took the strength of others in that case to help. He said you'd hear people together in a tent, try to keep each other awake. Really, this was another part of it in the room, and finding strength for someone else if you don't have it for yourself. Because when you do that, of course, you obviously find strength for yourself. It's remarkable what we're capable of. We all do have the capacity to beat our bully. Physical, mental, in whatever form they come, because they're always there. They're always there for all of us. The desire to get rid of them or escape them is a fool's errand. Unfortunate truth. So, right now I'm standing here. Last night, kind of my last nights after climbing Mount Batur, having this special experience. I was supposed to come back and have a energy healing, and there's been a few sort of incidents where people's time has been disregarded, and anyone who knows me knows I'm a fanatic about time, right? If you're gonna steal something from me, steal my money, but don't you dare steal my time, because that I can't get back. I would put this out there to anyone who is perpetually running late. Stop it. Stop being late. Be better. Manage your time. Figure it out. Because when you are late, you are legitimately stealing something from someone they can never get back. Time is the most valuable resource on the planet. And if you care at all about the people who you have obligations to, then you owe it to them not to steal from them the most valuable freaking resource that they got. So stop being late. In yoga, Ian says often, a lot of this pose lasts for 10 seconds. If you're late, it's over. And I would just say, stew on that one. So anyway, why am I getting to this? I'm supposed to have this energy healing, and I chose not to use my last night to go out and to experience something in Bali so that I could do this, right? Well, the healer shows up over 2 hours late. I'm asleep, and in my head, the night's wasted, and I just had enough. So I actually refused the healing. And then found myself going through a night filled with my old demons, so angry about different things that I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about it, right? And even I tried to reach out to some people back home, and no one was there, and I allowed myself to go further and further down the rabbit hole. By morning, I knew I needed to figure something out, because I wasn't going to leave here with this being my last perceptions, my last experiences. This was too much for me. Couldn't handle it. And so I decided to sit down and try to record this podcast. What's funny about this is that I was trying to record this podcast, use that time while I was waiting for this healer as well. And, you know, out here I don't have everything that I used to have, and so it's kind of figuring out how to do things on the fly. And I was trying to use my phone because I couldn't get the microphone to connect to the laptop. And so I was successful in doing that, but 3 times I tried to record it, and 3 times my phone ran out of RAM memory and couldn't process it, which is, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it because it was running on in a web-based application. So ultimate frustration, I decided to dive right back in, right? Like to the thing that I wanted to accomplish the most, the thing that I was frustrated with the most. And here we are, here we are. And what's significant about this is that I did get my healing, in this activity, in being able to figure this out, to persevere through my blockade. I said I had chose to rearrange my schedule to accommodate this healer. Really, that was all for me, right? I chose to not do something else so that I could do something for me. And I almost blew it. I got to that point again where I was ready to quit. And something in me said, no, you don't. My wife sent me a message, said, don't. My other friend sent me a message, said, don't. And I didn't. And I'm so glad I didn't. Because, again, I get to go out with a new perspective. I think I may go out today and tattoo a reminder of this on my body so that I can never forget it, so that I'm forced to stare at it. I'm not suggesting everybody go out and get a tattoo, but perhaps when you encounter the thing that you thought you couldn't best, that you know you can, perhaps then maybe just write it down. Say it out loud. Say it to somebody. Say to yourself that you can. Make it real. Let the universe hear you. Why do we do this? Well, simple. You do it so you have something to be embarrassed about if you don't again, right? So that you can't say I can't after that, right? Because now the world knows. You don't want to be a fraud. The world knows, right? Yeah. So, worth doing. Worth doing. Back to this journey here. Right now, I'm looking at, I guess I'm probably down to hours before I got to leave this country. And no, that's not true. I guess I got about 24 hours. Well, maybe a little more. So I won't call it hours yet. I don't want to look at it that way. But I'm standing here and it is 7:24 in the morning. I'm feeling fantastic. And I'm ready to spend this day spreading more joy. I wrote something that kind of sums up all of this for me in the best way that I can say it. So, in closing, I'd offer you the miracle. This morning I was blessed with pain. In my bones I found a chorus, while my muscles sang the verse. In my brain began a hymn that sent my body in reverse. No more. At first, no more would try to limit the definition of tomorrow. The past would paint a picture where the paint bled out from sorrow. No more. But soon would come the miracle that was born of my intention. What followed was confusion, for I know not this reflection. One more? Away with needed comfort, I stepped deep into the fire. Beneath the blisters, I saw forming he who toward which I'd aspire. One more step on solid ground. Oh, I'm gaining traction now. Now I only think of what, and I'm not concerned with thoughts of how. What's more, before long the chorus changed, whilst the hymn was in reverse, for the hymn that had been broken had found freedom from his curse. What's more? So I reached back into fire, and it was there I'd hold and freeze. In this stillness sang the choir that a change could now release. Savasana. This is Chris Kushner from Broken Sky in the Room signing off, saying I love you. Go out, be your best self. Know that you can do everything you think you can. Dare to set your goals. Dare to set your intention. Strive towards it. And reach out. Let me know. Reach out to the people around you. And on those days that you can't find strength for yourself, you think about those people and you go out and be strong for them. I love you all. Cheers.